Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Donald Trump's feud with the media got even weirder and more intense over the weekend after the president tweeted a video of his staged brawl with wrestling mogul Vince McMahon with a CNN logo superimposed over McMahon's face. It was a little confusing since CNN and pro wrestling could not be more different. One is an entertainment venture that promotes over-the-top fictional narratives and rigs its fights. The other is the WWE, but whatever. There is a word for this. It's called trolling, the digital version of getting someone's goat. Should the president really be taking time from running the free world to drive the media insane? Maybe not. Probably not. But he obviously enjoys it quite a bit. Here's the response he got, all of which you could have predicted ahead of time.
He's sending a message that this kind of violence is okay, and that the media are an okay target for violence.
It is an incitement to violence. He is going to get somebody killed in the media. There's way too many unstable people out in the streets right now at this time of impassioned and heightened passions.
There are people out there who will, unhinged, irrational, who take these messages, internalize them, and may act on them.
Well, CNN's media critic Brian Stelter argued that the video is so offensive that we ought to suspend free expression and censor the president's speech, at least on social media. It's a kind of an odd argument for a journalist to make, but there you have it.
So he is talking about violence against CNN. He's not saying go out and beat someone up, but he's publishing this video that models the behavior. I asked Twitter PR about an hour ago, what is this? Is this a violation of Twitter's terms of service? We have reporters asking that question. We've not heard back from Twitter. But keep in mind, the terms of service, they do forbid incitement to violence or harassment.
Well, there's no defending it on taste grounds, but dangerous? You heard a similar line on television all weekend. The president's words are putting lives in danger. Okay. But you wonder if reporters apply the same standards when those lives don't belong to journalists. Are they quite as upset as they are now? Do you remember when Bradley Manning dumped 750,000 pages of secret U.S. government documents into the media bloodstream? That happened. Did anyone get hurt because of that? We're still waiting for the follow-up stories on that. There doesn't seem to be a ton of interest in newsrooms. Or how about a month ago when the press published leaks about the Manchester bomber that infuriated intelligence in the UK? Did that hamper British counter-terrorism efforts? We may never know because so few reporters care. It was not about them. So it's not that interesting. Tammy Bruce is a radio show host, and she joins us now. Tammy, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I should preface this by saying the obvious. I'm not in favor of this. Haven't been in favor of it since day one. Probably should shut down the Twitter account, in my view. On the other hand, the response is so disproportionate, but in a very specific way. This is dangerous to us. That is what people safely ensconced in Washington TV studios are telling us. Is it dangerous to them?
It's not, only if they're successful in shutting down the president's ability to tweet and to activate in this manner. When you mention about what's dangerous and what the press does, and you gave some really good examples, but also just last month, the New York Times revealed the CIA's covert operating agent in Iran for the CIA and our operations there. They named him, they discussed his role, and even his alleged role in the killing of an Iranian-backed Hezbollah operative as well. So that puts that individual directly in danger, let alone all of the individuals who may have been working with him. So they don't have a problem doing that when there's real direct damage. But in this case, I happen to like the Twitter feed. I think the wrestling tweet was brilliant, and let me tell you why. It really brought up, it was predictable, as you noted in your opening, a predictable response. And isn't it interesting that that response, in fact, proves Donald Trump's point about the media, that they focus on the absurd, that they can't be taken seriously, they themselves don't take their job seriously, and it reinforces his point that they're increasingly irrelevant and they can't be trusted because they're not bringing people the real news. Now, when you look at his Twitter feed, and there's even been some complaints about this recently, they've actually begun counting his tweets and checking out the percentage of what's on policy versus what's on complaining about the media. And there is very little policy which tells you that there's a specific reason for the Twitter feed, which is to push back on these issues as he governs on serious issues like foreign policy, talking with China, dealing with North Korea, shooting at ISIS again, killing them, the little kid in England. Sometimes Twitter serves a purpose in that regard, but I think it's brilliant. It reinforces his point about the media, and they fall right into the trap because they're caught up in their own loathing. They can't see past themselves.
So the point of these tweets is to make reporters' heads explode and allow them to discredit themselves?
Well, that's what I'm seeing happen right here. Now, when you think about how much time it takes, whether, again, he's tweeting, he should be working, how long does it take? You have a Twitter account. It's fabulous. I do, too. It takes about a half of a second to push that button. He does that. They then move on, and he continues to do his work, dealing with the G20 that's coming up, the nature of the health care bill, the tax reform. And by a simple push of a button, he spins them around so quickly. Of course, it tells the American public that the media is so consumed and locked in groupthink that even they don't realize what's going on. And a recent poll, actually, just from today, notes that, I think it was an NBC Marist poll, that the media's polling numbers are at 30%. 30% of Americans trust them. 37% trust the president. So his rating is higher, and the American people trust him more than the media. And I think that tells you how this fight is going at this point.
That is fascinating. I mean, that's a really interesting analysis. I would say, for the record, I treat my social media like a loaded gun. I don't have the self-control for that stuff, so I stay away from it.
But it's
Tammy,
very delineated,
and
I think it's smart, and people have to look past themselves to see the nature of what's occurring here. I think it's great.
Fascinating. The great Tammy Bruce. Thanks a lot.
Tucker.